Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now, quite recently, a massive amount of new information has been released on the Dinosaur Protection Group's website that goes into explicit detail on what exactly happened during the 1993 incident at Jurassic Park. This information actually gives us a complete record of the events that led up to the Lost World and even fills us in on some previously unheard of details surrounding JP dinosaurs like the Proceratosaurus and Stegosaurus. There is a lot to unpack here, so I think it's best if we just jump in and begin. Now, at the start of this particular article by Ross S., we learn that Jurassic Park itself was heavily investigated after the events of the first movie, but the family's victims were apparently given hush money and all information surrounding the park remained hidden. It wasn't until a famous television interview with Dr. Ian Malcolm in 1995 that people started to talk about the incident seriously. At this point in the timeline, Malcolm disclosed sensitive information on InGen to the entire world and told the truth about what actually happened on Isla Nublar 2 years ago. Unfortunately, InGen made it their mission to discredit Malcolm's claims, and successfully managed to make Ian Malcolm a laughingstock. The man that was principally behind this happened to be Peter Ludlow, Hammond's nephew and soon-to-be CEO of InGen. You see, Ludlow was armed with years of experience in litigation and used a combination of legal loopholes, misinformation, and outright bribes in order to maintain the company's pristine image. And out of a desire to keep its own reputation safe from the public, the government of Costa Rica actually aided Ludlow in covering up John Hammond's dinosaur theme park. Ultimately, all of this worked. Everyone dismissed the existence of Jurassic Park as a hoax, and the public moved on. However, a hacker has recently managed to acquire sensitive InGen documents that were passed around the company around the time of these events, and this evidence proves to be quite damning to say the least. Inside of the document, which is dated around 1996, you'll find that the company had figured out who was behind the park's sabotage and how exactly the man did it. Dennis Nedry, whose name is redacted from the entire memo, is said to have shut down the system with a computer virus known as White Rabbit Object, which resulted in a loss of power to the security systems and even the secondary backup generator. This secondary generator was previously only heard of from the novel, so seeing it in the film lore is even more interesting to me. Now, in the next section, we learn that the insulated pipes that carried liquid nitrogen to the embryo storage units were severed in the sabotage. This caused a considerable rise in temperature and a loss of all viable embryos at the Nublar resort. There was also extensive water damage from a burst pipe around the visitor center that caused considerable damage to the embryo storage units. One of the units buckled under the stress and its embryos were washed away. It's believed that minor tectonic activity could have been the perpetrator. Now, the exact motive for Nedry's action was still unknown. However, the park veterinarian is said to have made a statement on his belief that the sabotage may have been in an effort to smuggle the embryos to a rival genetics company. In case you didn't know, this actually points straight to Jurassic Park the game's protagonist Jerry Harding as having been involved in the events of that particular game, propping up its placement in the timeline as pretty relevant. After this, we learn that InGen eventually did find the body of Dennis Nedry during the 1994 cleanup. The cause of death has, however, been blacked out. Now, the next couple of pages in the document are extremely crucial to knowing InGen's list and give us a complete understanding as to what the company was up to. Here, we can see which of their animals survived as well as where they happen to live. Brachiosaurus, Parasaurolophus, Triceratops, Tyrannosaurus rex, Gallimimus, and Dilophosaurus are confirmed to having lived on both Nublar and Sorna, while Baryonyx and Stegosaurus were only existing on Sorna alone. Compies were never supposed to be on Nublar, but it looks like some of the Sorna tribes made their way to Nublar by boat. And while velociraptors were indeed present on Site B, the bodies of small raptors were found post the Jurassic Park incident of '93. And finally, the information on the missing dinosaurs that we've all been waiting for. Those names on the embryonic chambers of the first park are explained to us in full. Corythosaurus, the dinosaur that an InGen hunter in the Lost World can be seen carrying information on, was actually an embryo in the first park. They had with them 97% of its DNA, but all viable embryos of the animal were destroyed in the sabotage. Metriacanthosaurus had 71% of its DNA inside of Jurassic Park during the incident, and unfortunately, they too were destroyed. 48% of Stegosaurus DNA was destroyed on Nublar as well. Interestingly, the document also states that 4 Herrerasaurs were actually alive on the island during these events, but all were found dead in the '94 cleanup. Again, this makes the events of Jurassic Park the game fairly significant. Now, luckily enough, InGen happened to get all of the DNA of these guys back during the evacuation of Site B, and that includes the already cloned baryonyx. They didn't really lose any of their animals except for one in particular. Sadly, it seems that the Proceratosaurus DNA was completely lost during the hurricane on Site B and the incident at Jurassic Park. Because of this, the animal's status was changed to terminated until further DNA could be found. At the end of this document, we get information on the very important Operation Clean Sweep being called off, and information on John Hammond's wishes for all of their production facilities to be kept from any press releases at this time. If you don't know what Operation Clean Sweep was, don't worry, I'll be doing a whole video on that in the future. In my opinion, this article was amazing. This is exactly the kind of information that I've been waiting for someone to put out there for a long time, and I'm incredibly happy to see that they finally did. That closes up nearly every loophole there used to be in the lore and makes things incredibly tight in nearly all areas. Jurassic Park the game raises some eyebrows, but for the most part it's actually been adopted into the lore in a very respectful way. This was probably the coolest lore dump I've ever seen released. Now, those are all just my thoughts though, and I'm curious to hear what all of your opinions are. How do you guys feel about all of this information from the DPG? And do you think we'll ever get to see a Segisaurus or Proceratosaurus in a future movie? Let me know in the comments down below, guys. I really hope we do. Now, before I go, I want to thank all of my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. It's extremely awesome that you all have helped me build this thing up, and I really do thank you all for helping me make it bigger and better every day. Now, I'd like to thank you all for watching this video, and hope that you all enjoyed today's content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like, and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.